Morning, my name is Lindiwe Mhlahlo from Gr08. Today I am going to present about figures of speech for grade 8. Figures of speech. What is a figurative language? That is where we have to start understanding about the figures of speech. A basic definition of figurative language is language that is used in exaggerated fashion to represent an idea. So you usually get those language when you read the poetry, literature as a whole. You always get the figures of speech. And you also use it when you are writing yourself to make your piece of writing interesting to the reader. A figure of speech is a word or phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. As last we were talking about literal and figurative language. So the meaning of figure of speech is a word or a phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. It can be a metaphor or a simile. How do you know that it is a metaphor or a simile? Or metaphor, a simile, or simile designed to make a comparison. It can be the repetition of alteration or the exaggeration of hyperbole to provide a dramatic effect. Now, when we talk about metaphor and simile, simile you'll always identify itself by like or as. Figures of speech is an expression that uses language in a non-literal way. Figures of speech is a more effective means of saying that direct speech due to some reasons. Because remember, you want the reader to have a picture of what you are talking about. So it gives it more meaning. It gives the readers imaginative pleasure or a picture. Figures of speech lend themselves particularly well to literature and poetry, as I already said. They also pack a punch in speeches and movie lines. So it makes the lines or a sentence to be more interesting. Indeed, these tools abound in nearly every corner of life. You learn it while you are at school, even when you are at the university, you still use the figures of speech to make your essay or an assignment more meaning. Then I've got a picture here in front of me. Identify the figures of speech in this illustration. So you need to analyze the illustrations. There are many figures of speech in this illustration. So how are you going to do that? Time flies. You can see that there is a watch there. So, which is a phase. That means that time is constantly moving fast. So you see the time flies, it's on the air. So, but now the more meaning of it, it means that time moves quickly. Cat got your tongue. This is a phrase used to ask someone why they are quiet. So That is why we said you use it throughout your lifetime. Kick the bucket. This is a way of saying someone has died or passed away. And it is there in the illustration. Bird brain. You see the bird on top of the person. A metaphor. It is a metaphor that compares the brain of a bird to someone's brain. As we know that a bird's brain is small, so it implies that someone's brain is small, meaning that if someone's brain implying that they are stupid, bird brain are small, and having a small brain makes you stupid. And born with a silver spoon in one's mouth. We can see that in the illustration. This means that you were born wealthy. This metaphor compares the silver spoon to wealth. So all these illustration, we are trying to differentiate between the metaphor and simile. We can see with all these comparison, there is no as or like. Unlike when we are talking about simile, we'll see the sentence like that. So this metaphor compared a silver spoon to a wealth. Find the rest of the 18 figures of speech in this image. So you can look at the illustration, then you can see some of them that you need to look is to spill the beans. We see that it is there in the illustration. A red herring. Kick the bucket, we already talked about. Hit the nail on the head. It is there. It's one of the figure of speech. And born with a silver spoon in one's mouth, tie the knot when someone is getting married. And then put all eggs in one basket. Can make an omelette without breaking an egg. It's another figure of speech that you see from this illustration or picture. The joker in the park, piece of cake, getting cold feet. You see, it is there in the picture. Keep your cards close to your chest. And a worth, hold a cat by the tail. And a bird brain. In the nutshell, the cherry on the cake, walk be in someone's shadow, and then bird's eyes view. The shoe is on the other foot. These are 23 figures of speech that you can get from this picture. Advertising. When you are advertising, you usually use the figures of speech so that your advertisement must reach those people that you want or the customers. What is an advertisement? An advertisement is a form of communication used to persuade an audience, viewers, readers, or listeners to take some action with respect to product, ideas, or services. Language has a powerful influence over people and their behavior. As we already said, if you want your language to be interesting, it is important to pack a punch in speeches and moving lines, especially when you are advertising or marketing. So you are trying to draw the attention of the readers or audience. So that is how you have to use the figures of speech. This is especially true in the field of marketing and advertising. The choice of language to convey specific message with the intention of influencing people is very important. So you need to choose a certain language, the way you have to put it, so that it draws the attention of the viewers. Visual content and design in advertising have a very great impact on the consumer. But it is language that helps people to identify a product. If you use a figurative language, they will identify and will always remember the product. An advertisement has some text which provide information about a product being advertised. It is true, you need to have the message, you need to have some information when you are advertising a product. Advertising puts figurative language to good use. When you advertise, you will have to use a figurative language so that it draws the attention of the viewers or audience. Figurative language in advertising is good to help the consumer picture himself or herself benefiting from the product or service being mentioned. So you need to use the language which is figurative language so that the consumer must have an image. Figures such as simile, metaphor, symbol, allegory, and personification are defined with examples and textual analysis of advertisements. So those are the figures of speech that usually used in a advertisement, like simile, metaphor, and so forth. A metaphor is a figure of speech that says that one thing is another different thing. In metaphor, the comparison is implied, but the comparison is without using words of comparison, such as like or as, unlike when we are using the simile. So when you are using a metaphor, you will not find the words such as like or as. However, it is a comparison. In metaphor, the comparison is hidden. You need to work out what is being compared to what on your own. We are going to use an example of Shakespeare. All the world's a stage. In this sentence, Shakespeare picturing that this world is a stage. The world is a stage and life is a drama because you are doing different actions. People merely go through the stages of their life, acting it out through their life. So that is how, according to Shakespeare, all the world is a stage. Now I've got an examples of advertisement. When in the picture we see a car and a rhino. When we look at this directly compares the strength and the durability of the car to a rhino. It is a comparison, which is a metaphor, implying that the car is as strong as rhino. Then this advert compares the danger of a cigarette. We look at the advert, at the picture, we see a person holding a cigarette to that, and then we compare the danger of another picture in the same of a gun, meaning that the cigarette is dangerous like a gun because you are actually killing yourself. Meaning smoking will kill you. That is how it is advertising here. It is a warning. Another picture, this advert directly compares the spiciness of the hot sauce to fire. It compares the sauce which is hot to a fire, as if to say the sauce will burn your tongue when you eat it. It is hot. For those who like a hot sauce will be able to understand that it is hot if they want to buy a hot sauce. Red Bull compares the energy you will get from drinking the beverage to flying. It's also a metaphor because now when an advertiser writes that the Red Bull compares the energy you will get from drinking the beverage to fly, Red Bull gives you wings, meaning that you will have so much energy after drinking the Red Bull, and you will feel like flying because you will be energetic. We also have another advertisement. This is an advert for debt relief when they want you to join them. The company uses this image to illustration of how heavy your debt is. It is too much for you, and how they will lighten to make it light the load of debt with debt specialists. So they are advertising that if you have too much debt, you can consult them. Then all the above advertisement that we were dealing with were the examples of metaphor. Now we come to the simile. As we said, when you are advertising, you're likely to use this kind of figurative language. Simile is also very close related to metaphor. It is also comparing one thing and another. But in simile, the comparison is explicit. It indicated by the adding or using the word of comparison such as like as resemble. So it is important that you differentiate between metaphor and simile. So with simile, it has key words that will be able to identify it with, such as like, as, and resemble. For instance, his explanation was as clear as mud. Obvious, you know that the mud is dark, but now the explanation was very clear. So it means not clear at all if the explanation was as clear as mud. For example, as white as snow. A newborn calf is like oven-baked bread. These are the examples that we use for a simile. So all these figurative language, they have as to show that, or like, to show that it is an example of a simile. This advert compares the taste and quality of the Coke to $1 million, meaning it tastes expensive but costs $1. So it is there, it draws the attention of the audience who like to have Coke. When we look at it, tastes like $1 million, meaning that immediately this sentence tastes like $1 million. It shows that it is an example of simile. So that is how I said with simile, you will always find a word or a key word like, or as. This advert implies that the track is as strong as a rock. So this also advertising a track that is strong, and usually it has the track like a rock. It is an example of simile. This advert compares life to a box of chocolates with various flavors. You never know what you will get. When we look at the sentence in advertisement, life is like a box of chocolates. It is a simile because the sentence there, or a statement, has the word like. Hence compares their company to other tomato sauce companies, claiming no other company grows tomatoes like them, boasting about quality of their tomatoes. Now in the picture here, we've got the statement that will be able to identify whether the statement is a simile. No one grows ketchup like, hence it is there like, meaning that we use it for simile. Hyperbole is simply exaggeration, but exaggeration in the service of truth. It is exaggerated to create an effect and not meant to be taken literally. It is a way to emphasize something, to say by describing it as far more extreme as it really is a sentence. We've got an example of a hyperbole in front of us. I will die if I did not pass the exam. It is an exaggeration. The sentence above contains hyperbole because the speaker did not really mean what she or he has said. So these are the examples of hyperbole. Personification is when human attributes are given to inanimate things. For example, time is a great healer. It is a personification because time is non-living and is compared to a healer, which is the characters of a human being. This exaggerates. On top of the world, we see the picture here. Someone is happy, opening his arms, excited, and it means exaggerate the feeling of being so happy. You feel on top of the world. It's an exaggeration. And then here we've got another advert. The billboard being tilted to the other side exaggerates the fatness of a man on the billboard, meaning it's time to lose weight. In other words, this company, which time for Sigma Men's Fitness Center, it's a company that like those people who are fat to go to the gym. So it also exaggerating. We've got this illustration in front of us, also exaggerating. We see that this picture is advertising the dog's food. So now, what is it? Fresher breath than yours. It exaggerates. This illustration exaggerates that your dog will have fresher breath than you because of the dog food. So the advertiser is encouraging or making the words that will make you to go and buy the food for your dog. We also have another exaggeration. Chronic migraine doesn't have to flatter me. So it means this product that they are selling will help you if you have a problem of a migraine. This advert also exaggerates the pain of a chronic migraine to being flattened by a big truck, meaning that the medication is so strong. So by using product advertised, you won't experience pain anymore. So here, that is another type of exaggeration. We also have alteration. First thing, we need to understand what is an alteration. It is a figure of speech that refers to a repetition of consonant sound, usually at the beginning of words, to create a desired effect. When we look at the picture, we see sheep. As we said, the sound at the beginning of words. Sheep should shower in a shed. So all these red words are at the beginning of the words that make a sound. So we call the consonant sound that will reflect at the beginning. For example, he bravely, you see the BR, bravely brought his beast with boiling blood. So all these consonants are at the beginning of the word. This advert uses the repetition as we were talking about alliteration. So now we need to have more example of alliteration so that we understand the difference between alteration, simile, metaphor, hyperbole, personification. So how are you going to identify if this advert use the alteration? As I already said, alteration usually have the repetition of consonant sound at the beginning of words. Now when we look at this one, we've got be, big, beef, bless. So these are the alteration and the consonant sound at the beginning of the word. To advertise the McDonald's beef burgers. So you need to look at advertisement and you'll be able to see that they usually use different type of figures of speech. The letter P is repeatedly used to emphasize the new pocket size links. Pocket pulling power. So it is also example of alteration. Then we've got another example of alteration, pumpkin, pinkin, pie, pancake. So this advert uses the letter P repeatedly to advertise the pancakes. Assonance refers to the repetition of similar vowel sound. You remember we spoke about alteration, which usually at the beginning of a word. Now, the difference between assonance and alteration. Assonance also refers to repetition of similar vowels. Now we are talking about vowels, not consonant, enclosed by different consonant. For example, worm, you see now, it is a vowel. Swim, or the same consonant with different vowels such as root, root. Hence, baked beans uses air repeatedly in this advert for assonance. When we look at the picture, we've got beans, means, hins. So those are we call them the repetition of vowels. And this figure of speech, we call it assonance. Assonance in this illustration is used in the form of repetition in U. When you look at the picture, the U's are highlighted. The crumbling thunder of seas. So this is a figure of speech called assonance, used when someone is advertising. Onomatopoeia refers to sound imitation, that is, using words that sound like the sound which they refer to, such as hiss of a snake, buzz of a bee. Onomatopoeia refers to sound imitation, that is, using words that sound like the sound which they refer to, such as hiss of a snake. The example is in front of us in the picture. Vroom, vroom, cabbage truck. That is imitation of a sound. We call it onomatopoeia. And blop, blop, fizz, fizz is the sound of a pills splashing into the water. The fizz, fizz is the sound the pills make as they dissolve. So they also used when they are advertising the product. So you can see that the advertiser can use many different types of figurative language. We also have zoom, zoom, to represent the sound the car makes when it is driving, and zoom, zoom also represent how fast the car drives. It zooms away fast. I hope you still remember that the example that we are busy with are the example of onomatopoeia. The hong hong is the sound the hooter makes. The flag makes the swish sound, and the car makes the zoom sound. So it is important that you are able to know all these kind of figurative language. We also have irony. Occurs when the writer says one thing but means the opposite. This draws the attention to the point the writer wants to make. For example, someone who is sending exit messages. Type, I think exit is a big waste of time. The irony in this advert is that you cannot call when your phone is out of service. When we look at the advert, phone out of service, give us a call. It is an opposite because it is an irony. You cannot call while they are out of the service. This is an ionic. Also, when you look at this picture, this is an ad for men. The lipstick is an advert for men. It is irony because men do not use the lipstick. This is ionic as lipstick adverts are usually used by women, not by men. What is a pun? A pun is usually described as a play on words. It is a clever wit form of figurative language which uses the words within a sentence to convey another meaning. The pun is often used in a form of a joke where words can have more than one meaning, or words can sound like they mean something else. Puns are often used in day-to-day conversation in order to add a sort of complex humor to a statement or situation. They are also used as a literary device. In this case, they are also used for a humorous effect, but can also be used in order to encourage the reader to think differently about the situation at hand, especially when the writer has a cartoon, usually have a humorous effect. Now let's look at this one, the advert. Let's talk about it. Now when you look at it, the play on words in this advert is the word taco. Instead of talk, the phrase used below is a witty, smart way of saying let's talk about it. So you can have this advert and then you need to understand what it means. This restaurant plays on the popular book Lord of the Flies. So the pun is, and phrase it as Lord of the Flies. It is a pun. Then we also have another pun example. This advertises light beer, which is using a healthier version of regular beer, but phrase it as light beer as it is poured in a light bubble. So it's an example of a pun. A rhyme, a regular and repeated pattern of sound, e.g. of strongly and weakly stressed syllables. And then this advert uses words ending with "-s" to create a rhyme. When we look at Jakwa, race, space, pace. So these are the example of rhyming word. The word sober and over are the rhyming in this advertisement. When you look at advertisement, drive sober or get pulled over. We also have symbol, something which stands for or represent something else. A symbol is an easily recognizable representation of a deeper meaning. Marketing and small business professionals often use symbols to represent their business or brand, to make advertising material easier to read and understand, and to convey deeper meanings through writing. We've got an example in front of us. A dove is a symbol of peace. We also have another picture in front of us, of which I think we are familiar with this symbol. McDonald's uses its famous fries in a way that illustrates the Wi-Fi symbol to show that McDonald's has Wi-Fi at the restaurants. So people will like to go and access the Wi-Fi. The Tabasco hot sauce uses this Gr08 as a symbol that the sauce will explode in your mouth, burning your sense taste buds. So explode your sense. That's the advertisement, the message from the advertisement. Also, there are fine line there, little bottle. So these are the rhyming words. We also have another picture here. When you look at the symbol, it's a symbol of Mercedes. Mercedes uses formula want drivers to create their logo because the drivers want to race driving Mercedes. They also use a pun in the slogan. Instead of Formula 1, they phrased it as Formula 1. At the end, I've got some activity in front of us. So we need to look at this activity and be able to see if you will be able to answer this question after you have analyzed the advert. Arrive alive, call center number. And then we also have alcohol leads to fatal accidents. So before you start responding to this question, you have to look at the advert and analyze it. Be able to see which figurative language are used, and are you going to answer all the questions. So we'll just go through the questions. You will have to answer it on your own. The 3.1, at which target audience is the above message aimed? You will look at the advertisement, then you will make an understanding and answer the question. What do the words fatal accident show? You will find the answer in the picture there. Choose the correct answer. Which government department is responsible for spreading this message? And you look at the picture, you will be able to answer this question. Give 2 reasons why it is not a good idea to drink and drive. When you look at the picture, you will have to answer the question. Why do you think the message above is an important one for our country? You'll be able to respond if you look at the question and the picture in front of you. And then, do you think the advertisement is successfully in conveying its message? Thank you very much. I think this is the end of our lesson. Your teacher will be able to help you respond to these questions. Thank you.